It's always struck me how education, well, for ages, has wrestled with this whole idea of student smartness, sort of trying to categorize people.
Absolutely. And often based on perceptions of ability that weren't always, let's say, objective.
Exactly. And when you actually dig into it, especially things like standardized tests, their origins, well, they often reflected the biases already in society, didn't they? Things like race, class, even just how schools were set up.
That's such a critical point. Education has leaned maybe too heavily on quite narrow definitions of what intelligence is. Things like memorization, certain kinds of analysis.
Yeah, the stuff that's easy to test, maybe.
Perhaps, but it meant potentially missing a whole spectrum of other talents. And, the result was often systemic disadvantages for some students.
Right. But now,
Yeah.
maybe we're at a real pivot point. We've been looking at some fascinating research, articles suggesting AI in education could genuinely change how we view student ability. Maybe move us past those old biased ideas.
Precisely. And that's what we want to explore in this deep dive. How can AI, make learning more individual? How can it foster new ways for students and AI to almost learn together?
And ultimately, help us see and cultivate a much broader range of what students can do.
Yeah, recognizing more strengths.
So our goal today is really to understand how AI might personalize learning in ways we couldn't before, encourage collaboration, and just acknowledge a wider view of competence. The focus really is on augmenting human potential, making things fairer.
Not just chasing higher scores on the same old tests. It's much bigger than that.
It's about boosting potential and hopefully advancing equity.
That's the core idea, making education itself more equitable.
Okay, so let's unpack this concept of smartness then, especially now with AI in the mix. Traditionally, being smart in school often boiled down to test scores, right? How much you could remember.
That was definitely a huge part of it. And while those traditional metrics, they seem simple, they have, significant limitations. They don't capture the full picture of intelligence.
And you mentioned the history, some disturbing connections to discriminatory ideas.
Unfortunately, yes. Some of these metrics emerged from assumptions about innate differences between groups, which really undermines their validity as pure measures of potential.
Which is where AI enters, potentially. Not as a replacement for thinking, but maybe as an enhancer.
Exactly. Think of it as a cognitive augmenter. Our sources talk about how AI can handle massive amounts of data, generate content drafts, help with research.
Freeing us up.
Precisely. Freeing up cognitive load for the higher level stuff. Critical evaluation, creative problem solving, deeper analysis.
So it's less about AI knowing facts for us and more about it enabling us to think more deeply. That's a big shift in what being knowledgeable might even mean.
It really is. AI as a partner shifts the demands. Routine tasks get handled, allowing us to focus our energy, so smartness becomes less about individual recall and more about the quality of that human-AI partnership.
Okay, so if AI can, theoretically ace old tests and recall instantly, what does smart look like now? Our sources point to some key emerging skills. Critical thinking, problem solving.
Absolutely crucial. And in the AI context, that includes evaluating the AI's output, right? Knowing when to trust it, when to question it. It adds a layer of complexity.
So it requires judgment.
Definitely. And interestingly, research suggests that while self-confidence boosts your critical thinking with AI, just blindly trusting the AI itself can actually hinder it. You need that critical distance.
That makes sense. Then there's creativity and innovation, still very human domains. And collaboration. Not just human to human, but human to AI.
Yes, as AI automates, our unique human creativity becomes even more valuable. And collaboration expands. Absolutely. Learning to work with AI effectively is a new skill in itself.
Communication, too, obviously still vital. Explaining complex ideas, understanding nuance, and then this whole area of AI literacy.
Which is becoming fundamental.
Like understanding how AI basically works, how to prompt it effectively. That's a skill. Prompt engineering, and knowing how to spot when AI might be wrong or biased.
Exactly. AI literacy is about using these tools effectively and responsibly, recognizing limitations like hallucinations or embedded biases, and knowing how to query them properly.
And the list goes on. Adaptability, lifelong learning seems more critical than ever. Plus ethical reasoning, thinking about the implications, being a responsible digital citizen.
Definitely. The pace of change demands continuous learning. And the ethical dimension is huge. We need to navigate fairness, accountability, all of that.
And it's striking that developing these skills isn't automatic just because you use AI. It depends entirely on how it's used in education, right? The pedagogy has to be intentional.
Absolutely. It's not just about access. It's about critical engagement, thoughtful integration into teaching and learning.
Our sources had a useful table, sort of summarizing the shift from the old view of smartness to this AI augmented one, comparing valued skills, assessment, the student's role.
And what really stands out in that comparison is the move away from passive reception of knowledge towards active construction, critical inquiry, creativity, ethical collaboration, all potentially amplified by AI.
Okay, let's dive deeper into personalization then. How is AI actually tailoring learning? And crucially, how might this help with equity?
Well, there are several mechanisms. One big one is adaptive learning systems, ALS. Think of Duolingo, maybe?
Yeah, it adjusts based on how you're doing.
Exactly. It monitors your progress and changes the difficulty or content. It's like a personalized learning path, constantly adjusting.
And then you have intelligent tutoring systems, IDS, aiming to be more like a human tutor.
Sort of, yes. Systems like Dreambox or Carnegie Learning's Cognitive Tutor try to provide that one-on-one guidance. They diagnose misunderstandings, offer targeted help, let students go at their own pace.
It sounds incredibly powerful, like Auto Tutor or the Socratic Playground project, pushing those boundaries.
They really are. They go beyond just presenting info. They're trying to understand the student's thinking process and guide it.
And the feedback is key, isn't it? Not just right or wrong, but specific, real-time feedback.
That immediacy and personalization of feedback is a major advantage. AI can pinpoint why an error occurred, and generative AI can even create personalized practice exercises or explanations on the spot.
Plus, AI can curate resources, find just the right video or article for you.
Yes, it can search vast libraries of content and recommend materials that fit a student's specific learning needs and style at that exact moment.
And behind it all, data analysis. AI spotting patterns, maybe predicting struggles.
That's a big part of it. Analyzing learning data helps identify students who might need extra support, allowing teachers to intervene early before a student falls too far behind. It's a feedback loop. Personalization improves engagement, which generates more data, refining the personalization.
Of course, that raises privacy questions we need to address later.
Definitely. Data privacy and security are critical considerations.
But focusing on the learning side for a moment, one huge potential benefit seems to be addressing learner variability. Everyone learns differently, right? Different paces, styles.
Precisely. AI's ability to personalize means it can cater to different learning speeds, offering challenges for faster learners, reinforcement for those needing more time.
And different styles. Visual, auditory, hands-on.
It can deliver content in multiple formats, text, audio, video, interactive simulations, potentially matching a student's preferred way of learning much better than a one-size-fits-all approach.
And for students with special educational needs, SEN, the possibilities seem immense.
Truly transformative potential there. Text-to-speech for dyslexia, speech-to-text for visual impairments, specialized math tools for dyscalculia.
Tailored interactions for students on the autism spectrum. Eye-tracking tech for motor limitations. Real-time translation.
All examples highlighted in our sources. These assistive technologies can dramatically improve accessibility and foster inclusion. And what's emerging now is AI's potential to adapt to even more subtle differences, maybe noticing cognitive fatigue or shifts in emotional state, offering support proactively.
Wow, like it could sense when you're getting overwhelmed and adjust. That's quite something. So the big question, can this help close those persistent achievement gaps?
The potential is certainly there. Some studies show significant gains in conceptual understanding with AI-driven adaptive feedback compared to traditional methods like that 28% versus 14% improvement figure you mentioned. It suggests AI could lead to more consistent achievement levels.
And this is it all depends on access, doesn't it? The digital divide. If only some students have the tech, the internet, the trained teachers, won't that just make inequality worse?
That is the absolute critical risk. Without equitable access, AI could easily exacerbate existing disparities. We saw that during the pandemic with remote learning. Policy interventions, investment in infrastructure, teacher training, they're essential to avoid that.
And it's not just access, it's also about the AI itself, right?
Yeah.
Does it reflect diverse cultures?
Yeah.
Is the content relevant?
Huge considerations. AI tools need to be culturally sensitive and linguistically appropriate. In some contexts, there's even a need to actively decolonize AI implementation, ensuring it doesn't just impose dominant cultural norms, it needs to fit the local context.
So AI isn't a magic bullet for equity, but a tool that could help. if implemented thoughtfully and equitably.
Exactly. It has the potential to reshape some flawed traditional practices like biased assessments or culturally mismatched curricula, but only if we are very intentional about it.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to this idea of co-learning, the student and AI learning together to get ahead. What's really going on there?
It describes this kind of mutual learning dynamic. Students obviously learn from the AI, the personalized content, the feedback, but in some systems, the AI also learns from the student interactions.
How does that work?
Through machine learning, essentially. As students interact, the AI gathers data on what works, what doesn't, where common misconceptions lie. It can use this data to refine its own algorithms, improve the content it generates, make its feedback more effective over time.
So the AI gets smarter about teaching as more students use it.
In adaptive systems, yes, that's the idea. It's sometimes called human-AI symbiotic learning. Students might even implicitly teach the AI by how they respond or what prompts they use.
But you said some systems. It's not universal.
Right. It really depends on the AI's architecture. Adaptive learning systems are specifically designed for this feedback loop. Large language models might learn in a broader sense from vast data sets, but not necessarily adapt dynamically to individual student interactions in the same way unless specifically designed to. True coevolution requires intentional design.
Got it. Now, our sources talk about different modes of interaction. Assessment mode, tutoring mode.
Yes, different ways students can engage. Assessment mode is like adaptive quizzes. Tutoring mode aims for that conversational, one-on-one instruction.
There was vicarious mode learning by watching AI agents interact, and teachable agent mode learning by teaching the AI. That sounds fascinating.
It is. The teachable agent approach forces students to really organize their knowledge and articulate it clearly, which strongly reinforces learning and metacognition awareness of their own thinking. Research is also exploring using LLMs for really sophisticated tutoring dialogues.
Because you have to truly understand something to explain it, even to an AI. Makes sense. But the effectiveness depends on the student. Age, self-regulation skills.
Definitely. Developmental stage matters, as does a student's ability to manage their own learning. Research also suggests that more active forms of engagement generally lead to better learning, but students might need scaffolding to engage effectively, especially younger ones.
So how does this interaction affect those key learning skills? Self-regulated learning, SRL, engagement, and metacognition.
AI can potentially support SRL by prompting, planning, monitoring progress, reflecting on strategies.
Like little reminders or check-ins.
Exactly. And the personalization and interactivity can definitely boost engagement. That study showing a 35% increase with AI feedback is a good example. For metacognition, AI can prompt reflection, ask students to explain their reasoning, or critically evaluate the AI's own suggestions. The teachable agent mode is great for this too.
But there's a flip side, isn't there, the risk of cognitive offloading?
Yes, that's a major concern. Students might rely too much on AI to do the thinking for them, especially for tasks crucial for developing understanding. Some studies show a negative link between AI use and critical thinking, potentially because students are offloading the cognitive effort.
So they don't build the mental muscle themselves. And related to that is over-reliance, just becoming dependent.
Right. Losing the ability or even the confidence to work independently. And there's also the risk of eroding human agency, where the AI becomes too prescriptive, dictating the learning path without enough student input.
Plus the accuracy issue. AI can be wrong, it can hallucinate, it can have biases. Students need to be aware of that.
Absolutely crucial. Critical AI literacy includes understanding that AI output isn't infallible and needs verification.
So mitigating these risks comes back to pedagogy, how teachers design tasks.
It really does. Tasks that require critical analysis, synthesis, evaluating the AI's output, applying knowledge in new ways, those are much better than tasks where the AI just generates the answer. The educator's role in fostering critical engagement and AI literacy is paramount.
Okay, so if AI is changing the landscape this much, what does educational success even mean anymore? It's shifting away from just knowing stuff, right?
Definitely. The emphasis is moving towards applying knowledge. Can you use what you know to solve novel problems? Can you think critically, creatively?
Higher order thinking skills become premium. And lifelong learning, adaptability, plus those human-centric skills, empathy, communication, collaboration, ethics.
Those become even more important in a world where AI handles routine tasks. And of course, AI literacy and what our sources call collaborative intelligence, the ability to partner effectively and ethically with AI.
Which implies we need new ways to assess success, doesn't it? Moving beyond multiple choice tests.
Absolutely. We need assessment methods that can actually measure these complex skills. Think project-based assessments, portfolios, performance tasks, where students demonstrate application, maybe even AI adaptive assessments that focus on the learning process, not just the final answer.
That sounds like a huge cultural shift for schools and educators, moving away from familiar metrics.
It is. It challenges long-held beliefs about teaching, learning, and what constitutes achievement. It requires institutions to genuinely value these new competencies.
And what about the teacher's role in all this? It's clearly not just delivering information anymore.
Far from it. Teachers become learning architects, designing these AI-enhanced experiences. They become facilitators, guiding deeper inquiry, asking critical questions.
Mentors, coaches, focusing on the socio-emotional side too, and ethical guides.
All of that. They help students navigate the complexities, foster ethical awareness, promote that critical AI literacy. They also become interpreters of the data AI provides, using it to inform their teaching strategies.
It sounds like a significant upskilling is needed. Our sources mentioned AI pedagogical content knowledge, or AI PCK.
Yes, that concept highlights the need for teachers to understand not just the AI tools, but how to integrate them effectively within their specific subject matter to achieve learning goals. It requires specific training and ongoing professional development.
And this opens up new pedagogical approaches. Inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, AI as a research assistant.
Exactly. AI can support these beautifully. Students can use AI for data analysis, drafting initial ideas, exploring complex topics, collaborative problem solving where AI acts as a resource, or even a simulated team member.
And really pushing higher order thinking by having students critique AI outputs, maybe engage in Socratic dialogues with an AI.
Yes, using AI as a thinking tool, not just an answer machine, seems to lead to better learning outcomes. It forces engagement at a deeper level.
Plus personalized learning paths, immersive experiences with VR powered by AI.
The possibilities are exciting. But again, technology alone isn't enough. It requires an institutional culture that supports innovation, flexible curricula, diverse assessments, and ongoing support for teachers trying new things.
Okay, let's pivot to the ethical dimension, because this runs through everything. Algorithmic bias is a huge concern.
It absolutely is. Bias in the data used to train AI can lead to unfair outcomes, biased grading, inequitable resource allocation, culturally insensitive content. It can perpetuate and even amplify existing societal biases.
So what can be done? How do we promote fairness?
It requires a multi-pronged approach. Detecting and mitigating bias during AI development, using diverse and representative data sets, conducting regular audits of AI systems, demanding transparency and explainability in how they work.
And that idea of decolonizing AI in global contexts seems relevant here too.
Very much so. Ensuring AI respects local cultures and contexts, rather than imposing external norms.
Then there's data privacy and security. We touched on it, but collecting all the student data, it's sensitive.
Highly sensitive. Concerns around how data is collected, stored, shared, and protected are paramount. We need robust cybersecurity measures, clear policies on data governance, informed consent.
And student well-being. Too much screen time, potential for social isolation, technostress.
Yes, we need a balanced approach. Promoting digital well-being alongside academic goals is crucial. Ensuring AI enhances, rather than detracts from, the social and emotional aspects of learning.
And we keep coming back to the digital divide. Access remains fundamental for equity.
Absolutely fundamental. Reliable access to devices, high-speed internet, and educators who are proficient in using AI. These are prerequisites for equitable implementation. Without them, AI will widen the gap.
So we need policy interventions,
Yes. Investment in infrastructure, initiatives for affordable access, comprehensive AI literacy programs for educators are all necessary.
And finally, academic integrity. With generative AI, concerns about plagiarism, cheating. They're huge.
Understandably so. AI makes it easier to generate text, solve problems. It challenges traditional notions of authorship and effort.
So how do we navigate that? Ban AI.
Banning is rarely effective long-term. The focus needs to shift towards education and adaptation. Clear institutional policies on acceptable use are needed, yes, but more importantly, we need to educate students on ethical AI use.
Cultivating that critical AI literacy, we talked about understanding limitations, evaluating outputs, proper citation if applicable.
Exactly. And rethinking assessment design is key. moving away from tasks easily completed by AI towards those requiring higher-order thinking, process demonstration, critical analysis, creativity.
Focusing on the how and why, not just the final product.
Precisely. And fostering a culture of academic integrity, intellectual honesty, responsibility that goes beyond just rules about AI. It's about nurturing critical thinking and ethical reasoning.
It sounds like navigating these ethical challenges requires a really proactive, collaborative approach, not just setting rules and forgetting them.
It has to be ongoing. A multi-stakeholder dialogue involving educators, students, policymakers, developers, adapting as the technology evolves. Shared responsibility is key.
So wrapping this up, the potential of AI in education seems genuinely transformative. Personalization, equity, augmenting intelligence.
The potential is definitely there. AI as a cognitive partner, enabling new forms of co-learning, addressing variability in ways we couldn't before.
But the challenges are just as significant. Bias, privacy, access, ethics, maintaining human agency.
Absolutely. These need constant attention and careful management to ensure AI serves education's best interests.
And ultimately, it seems the message is about keeping it human-centered. Technology serves human goals.
That's the crucial takeaway. Prioritizing student well-being, critical thinking, creativity, ethics, those irreplaceable human skills. AI should enhance the human element of education, not diminish it.
And there's still so much we don't know. Future research on long-term impacts, effective collaboration models, governance.
Yes, we need ongoing research to understand how best to integrate AI for societal benefit, ensure teacher preparedness, and tackle global equity issues.
So maybe the final thought is this. The real measure of success for AI in education isn't just making individuals smarter by old standards. It's about fostering augmented intelligence.
A synergy.
Yeah, a human-AI partnership that enhances our collective capacity intellectually, creatively, ethically. Redefining getting ahead, not as individual competition, but as shared progress towards a more capable, thoughtful, and maybe a truly more intelligent society.
That requires a sustained collaborative effort, a collective learning journey, really.
A powerful idea to reflect on.